Hello friends, welcome to a lecture on biodiversity at global, national and local level. In this part of program, our objectives will be to gain knowledge of the concept of biodiversity, to ascertain the value and importance of biodiversity, and to study biodiversity at global level. The term biodiversity is commonly used to describe the number, variety and variability of living organisms. The 1992 Convention on Biological Diversity, the authoritative international treaty on biodiversity conservation, defines biodiversity as the variability among living organisms from all sources including inter alia, terrestrial, marine and other aquatic ecosystems and the ecological complexes of which they are a part. This includes diversity within species, between species and of ecosystems. Biological diversity is most conveniently but not exclusively described in terms of three conceptual levels, that is genetic diversity, species diversity and ecosystem diversity. Now, genetic diversity. The genetic diversity refers to the variation of genes within species, that is, between individuals of a species. We know the genes are the units of biological information that are passed from parents to their offsprings. These are the building blocks of all life on Earth and the reason behind the incredible diversity we see in species and ecosystems. As we know that every living organism from bacteria to higher organisms stores a huge amount of genetic information. For example, the number of genes in bacteria is about 4,000, 13,000 in fruit fly, 30 to 50,000 in rice and 35 to 45,000 in humans. Species diversity. Species diversity is simply the number of different species in a habitat or region. At global scale, it refers to the entire range of species found on Earth. Species are the biological units that are most readily recognized. For example, all human beings belong to a single species. In nature, the number and kind of species as well as the number of individuals per species varies greatly, thus resulting in greater diversity. Species simply refer to the different kinds of living organisms. For example, different kinds of birds, insects, plants, etc. Ecosystem diversity. United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity defines ecosystem as a dynamic complex of plants, animals and microbes and their non-living environment interacting as a functional unit. Ecosystem diversity describes the number of trophic levels and various ecological processes that sustain energy flow and nutrient cycling. The number of ecosystems can vary among geographical regions and is also a measure of biodiversity. Out of these three levels, it is the species diversity that has been used as a common currency for biodiversity measurement. Why biodiversity is important? Biodiversity is important because it provides precious economic goods and ecological services to the humankind. Biodiversity provides the 4 F's of life, that's food, fodder, fuel and fiber. The benefits that we gain from biodiversity go far beyond the mere provision of raw materials. Our energy security strongly depends on biodiversity and so does our resilience to natural hazards such as fires and floods. Biodiversity loss has negative effects on our health and material wealth. All cultures attach spiritual and religious values to ecosystems and the biodiversity they support. Thus, its loss strongly influences our social relations. Biodiversity serves as a safety net for poor people during times of crisis. Genetic diversity within species, for example, as represented by livestock breeds or plant cultivars, reduces risk from diseases and increases potential to adapt to changing climates. More than 70,000 plant species are used in traditional and modern medicine. Now we will study biodiversity at global level. Biodiversity is unevenly distributed on our planet. For instance, some countries, regions or ecosystems, especially in the tropics, harbor far greater biodiversity than others. Estimates of the number of species on Earth vary from 3 to 100 million. Currently, around 2 million extant species are believed to have been described, but some scientists believe 20% are synonymous. A conservative estimate given by the UNCBD is about 13 million species, out of which only 1.75 million stand scientifically known. Much of this uncertainty relates to the most species-rich groups such as invertebrates. Species are becoming extinct at the fastest rate known in geological history, and most of these extinctions are tied to human activity. Some conservation organizations estimate species are heading towards extinction at a rate of about 1 in every 20 minutes. One figure frequently cited is that the rapid loss of species we are seeing today is estimated to be between 1,000 and 10,000 times higher than the natural extinction rate. Of the 47,677 species in the International Union for Conservation of Nature Red List of Threatened Species of 2009, 17,291 are deemed to be at serious risk. The list reveals that 21% of all known mammals, 30% of all known amphibians, 12% of all known birds, 28% of reptiles, 37% of freshwater fishes, 70% of plants, and 35% of invertebrates assessed so far are under threat. Megadiversity countries. Megadiverse countries are a group of countries that harbor the majority of the Earth's species and are therefore considered top biodiversity-rich countries in the world. Conservation International identified 17 megadiverse countries in 1998. These include United States of America, Mexico, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Venezuela, Brazil, Democratic Republic of Congo, South Africa, Madagascar, India, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, Papua New Guinea, China, and Australia. To qualify as a megadiverse country, a country must have at least 5,000 of the world's plant species as endemics. These contain as much as 7 to 8% of the world's species. This group of countries has less than 10% of the global surface but support more than 70% of the biological diversity on Earth. The concept was first developed by Russell Mittermeier in 1988 as a way to prioritize conservation action. This country-based method raises national awareness for biodiversity conservation in nations with high biological diversity, with many species unique to a specific country. This concept complements that of biodiversity hotspots and high biodiversity wilderness areas to achieve significant coverage of the world's biological resources. Biodiversity hotspots. The concept of biodiversity hotspots was first given by British ecologist Norman Myers in 1988 as a means to address the dilemma of identifying the areas most important for preserving species. Myers recognized that despite their relatively small sizes, certain ecosystems account for a high percentage of global biodiversity. Many of these same areas face tremendous pressure from logging, agriculture, hunting, and climate change. To qualify as a hotspot, a region must meet two strict criteria. It must contain at least 1,500 species of vascular plants as endemics, and it has to have lost at least 70% of its original natural habitat. Currently, 34 biodiversity hotspots have been identified, most of which occur in tropical forests and coral reefs. They occupy just 2.8% of the terrestrial land area, yet they contain around 50% of the world's plant species and 42% of all terrestrial vertebrates, but have lost around 86% of their original habitat. Tropical rainforests are well known for their very high biodiversity. The extensive cover of tropical rainforests occurs in the Amazon basin, Zaire basin, and Southeast Asia. Coral reefs are called as the rainforests of the ocean. These are ecologically important ecosystems and have a high biodiversity. They occupy just 0.2% of the total area of world's oceans, yet they support more than 30% of the globally known marine species. They are a source of food, medicine, and fish resources, support tourism industry, and protect the coast from wave erosion. Reptiles and amphibians are more prone to hotspot endemism than are the more wide-ranging mammals and birds, but the overall similarity between taxonomic groups is remarkable. Global biodiversity indices. There are several indicators used that describe trends in global biodiversity. However, there is no single indicator for all extant species, as not all have been described and measured over time. There are different ways to measure changes in biodiversity. The Living Planet Index is a population-based indicator that combines data from individual populations of many vertebrate species to create a single index. The Global Living Planet Index for 2012 decreased by 28%. There are also indices that separate temperate and tropical species from marine and terrestrial species. The Red List Index is based on the IUCN Red List of threatened species and measures changes in conservation status over time and currently includes taxa that have been completely categorized, that is mammals, birds, amphibians, and corals. The Global Wild Bird Index is another indicator that shows trends in population of wild bird groups on a regional scale from data collected in formal surveys. Challenges to these indices due to data availability or taxonomic gaps and the length of the time of each index. The Biodiversity Indicators Partnership was established in 2006 to assist biodiversity indicator development advancement and to increase the availability of indicators. We will now study biodiversity at national level. India is known for its rich heritage of biodiversity. It is one of the 17 mega biodiversity countries of the world and one of the 4 in Asia. With only 2.4% of the world's area, India accounts for 78% of the world's recorded plant and animal species. The country is divided into 12 biogeographic regions. Besides, India is recognized as one of the 8 Wavlovian centers of origin and diversity of crop plants, having more than 300 wild ancestors and close relatives of cultivated plants which are still evolving under natural conditions. India ranks among the top 10 species-rich nations and shows high endemism. The country is also one of the 12 primary centers of origin of cultivated plants and domesticated animals. About 4,900 species of flowering plants are endemic to the country. It is estimated that 62% of the known amphibian species are endemic to India. Approximately 65% of the total geographical area has been surveyed so far. Based on this, over 46,000 species of plants, 81,000 species of animals have been described by the Botanical Survey of India, established in 1890, and Zoological Survey of India, established in 1916 respectively. According to the 1994 IUCN assessment, India contained 172 or 2.9% of IUCN designated threatened species. These include the Asiatic lion, the Bengal tiger, and the Indian white-rumped vulture. It is estimated that 18% of plants are endemic to the country and found nowhere else in the world. High endemism has also been recorded for various groups of insects, marine worms, centipedes, mayflies, and freshwater sponges. Apart from the high biodiversity of Indian wild plants and animals, there is also a great diversity of cultivated crops and breeds of domestic livestock. The traditional cultivars included 30,000 to 50,000 varieties of rice and a number of cereals, vegetables, and fruit. India completely houses 2 of the 34 biodiversity hotspots in the world, that's the Eastern Himalaya and Western Ghats and Sri Lanka. The third, that's Indo-Burma, lies partially within the Indian Northeast region. There is a huge species diversity in all the 3 hotspots, with several of the species being endemic to their native ranges in India. Now, these hotspots include the Western Ghats and Sri Lanka, the Eastern Himalaya, and the Indo-Burma. The Western Ghats and Sri Lanka. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and is one of the 8 hottest hotspots of the biological diversity in the world. About 1,500 endemic species of dicotyledonous plants are reported from the Western Ghats. Nearly 235 species of endemic flowering plants are considered endangered. As regards the fauna, as many as 315 species of vertebrates belonging to 22 genera are endemic. These include 12 species of mammals, 13 species of birds, 89 species of reptiles, 87 species of amphibians, and 104 species of fish. There occur 117 species of amphibians in the region, of which 89 species, that is 76%, are endemic. Of the 165 species of reptiles found in Western Ghats, 88 species are endemic. Many of the endemics and other species are listed as threatened and include lion-tailed macaque, Nilgiri langur, Nilgiri thar, Beddoes toad, flying squirrel, and Malabar grey hornbill. The Eastern Himalaya. The Eastern Himalayan hotspot has nearly 163 globally threatened species, including the one-horned rhinoceros, the wild Asian water buffalo, and in all 45 mammals, 50 birds, 17 reptiles, 12 amphibians, 3 invertebrate and 36 plant species. In the whole of the Himalayas, there are an estimated 9,000 plant species, with 3,500 of them being endemic. At least 55 flowering plants endemic to this area are recognized as rare. For example, the pitcher plant. Species of several families of monocotyledons, Orchidaceae, Gingiberaceae, and Ericaceae abound in the area. The area is also rich in wild relatives of plants of economic significance, for example, rice, banana, citrus, ginger, chili, jute, and sugarcane. The region is regarded as the center of origin and diversification of 5 palms of commercial importance, namely coconut, areca nut, palmyra palm, sugar palm, and wild date palm. The taxol plant, Taxus valenciana, is sparsely distributed in the region and has come under red data category due to its overexploitation for extraction of a drug effectively used against cancer. As regards faunal diversity, 63% of the genera of land mammals in India are known from this area. During the last 4 decades, 2 new mammals have been discovered from the region, that's the golden langur from Assam-Bhutan region and Namdapa flying squirrel from Arunachal Pradesh, indicating the species richness of the region. The area is also a rich center of avian diversity. More than 60% of the Indian birds are recorded in the northeast. A few threatened endemic bird species include the Himalayan quail, cheer peasant, western tragopan. Indo-Burma. The hotspot encompasses 33 terrestrial ecoregions. In recent times, 6 species of large mammals have been discovered here. That is the large antlered muntjac, the Annamite muntjac, the grey-shanked doves, the Annamite striped rabbit, the leaf deer, and the sayola. This region is home to several primate species such as monkeys, langurs, and gibbons, with populations numbering only in the hundreds. It also houses 520 reptile species, including 1/5 of the world's freshwater turtle species. Almost 1,300 bird species exist in this region, including the threatened white-eared night heron, the grey-crowned croziers, and the orange-necked partridge. It is estimated that there are about 13,500 plant species in this hotspot, with over half of them endemic. Ginger, for example, is native to this region. With this, we come to the end of the part 1st of biodiversity at global, national, and local level. Hope you have understood it. In part 2nd, we will be discussing Indian biodiversity, biodiversity at local level, threats to biodiversity, and its conservatory measures. Thank you.